What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another new car. As you can see here, we've got a nice little Harrop blown LS1. So this is a Rods Pistons LS1. Apart from that, it's just a stacked Gen 3 alloy block with our Harrop. I believe it's a 2300. Do you know, Rex? It's
I think it's
1900, is it? So 1900 Harrop, as you can see, little OTR. It's got a little reservoir for the cooling system. It's not very big.
It's a Maggy.
Oh, it's a Maggy, is it?
Yeah.
Sorry, should learn how to read. Well, there you go. It's a Magnuson. So you can have a small reservoir for the cooling system. It is quite small because the battery is still there. So it sits on top of the battery. There's not a lot of volume there. And I believe this thing previously made 500 and something.
Yeah, low 500s.
Low 500s.
Mid 500s, something like that.
It's a really nice ute. It's really nice inside. Manual VU. And yeah, just well done. Not overly done. One of those things. It's pretty easy to overdo these cars if you just go nuts with them. It's just nice. But anyway, it is here because we are performing some upgrades. So we're going to be doing some underdrive pulley upgrades to try and get a bit more boost, and along with some more boost, we're going to be upgrading the cooling system to try and get a bit more density back into that air. So we have an interchiller system to go on this car. So it'll be interchiller, more boost, and a retune essentially. So looking forward to seeing what we can get out of this, or what the difference is going to be versus where it is now. So pretty keen to see how much boost we'll end up with and what our IATs will be versus what they are with the current setup, and how much power we can actually make out of this thing. So we'll run it up now and see what it spits out on our dyno as it sits. And then we'll start doing a couple of upgrades and go nuts. Looking forward to this one. So it's just a Rods Pistons LS1 with some standard upgrades. It was built by one of our mates, but we're not sure exactly what cam or anything else is in it. So we could probably call him and talk to him. He might remember, but he's a very busy guy. It's pretty hard to get hold of, which we can understand. But I believe it's like ARP bolted and all the other general standard upgrades that come with boosting one of these things. So. Rightio guys, we got our baseline, basically 550. Started getting a bit of wheel slip the more we were going. 550, so there's plenty of room still to go. We've made pretty close to 700 out of LS1. Well, we haven't made more than 700 out of LS1 blocks before, so with that thing being Rods Pistons, pretty happy to push it up to there. So we'll just see what we can do with that little blower, but looking forward to it. Righto, so starting to dive into this fuel system that's going to be going into this ute. Now the fuel system that we're putting in this thing is one that we've done quite a few times on the channel. It's very simple, it's very easy to set up, and it's reliable, easy to access. Everything about it's really nice. So most of the parts come from Raceworks. We do use an Aeroflow surge tank just because the dimensions of the Raceworks one don't quite fit in the space where we need to put the surge tank. So we like to use the surge tanks that house an internal pump The reason being that it keeps the pump nice and quiet. It also helps keep the pump cool. Once you start going to external pumps, you start to get really loud. For a street car, it can be quite annoying. We don't like it. So we like things quiet, you know, a little bit discreet. So that's what we use. We replace the factory V8 hanger with a V6 one. The reason we do that is because of the way the V6 one is regulated. So it pretty much houses a factory V6 fuel pump module, which works as a lift pump to the surge. And then from the surge, we use an internal pump in our little airflow surge tank, and the correct fittings and everything else we need. And that's pretty much it. Like always, everything is nut certed so that it's easy to work with, easy to access, easy to remove and refit. We try and, as much as we can, make things as serviceable as possible. All right, guys, this is the new Interchiller. Woohoo! So for those that don't know what an interchiller is, it is essentially a reservoir in which there is an internal coil, and you plumb the AC lines through the internal coil, and you know, you've got some AC lines where the pressure drop causes really sudden cold temperature. There are some AC lines where you can't even touch them, they're so cold, they're like icy, and it uses that to cool the fluid in the interchiller. So that's what an interchiller is, that's what it does, and that's what we're mounting in here. As well as that, we've got like a thermal blanket, which is to space or separate the supercharger from the engine and stop the heat soak from the engine going into the supercharger area, and heat soaking the brick inside the charger as much as possible. So that's in here as well. So we've got some spaces, thermal blanket, interchiller. Try and make sure that we can keep as much of this density in this air as possible and make as much power as we can. Righto, so the boys have got the blower off, but we do have some dramas. So because of this spaces that we want to run, plus the thermal blanket, we need some longer bolts, because with the spaces, these bolts are going to be too short. There's not enough thread engagement into the head. Now, the problem is though that the bolts, you can't remove the bolts without splitting the manifold from the blower. So now we're going to have to split the blower from the manifold just to be able to swap the bolts out so that we can run the spaces and still get enough thread engagement into the head. Rex is starting to braze on some fittings and change some AC lines to run our interchiller. We haven't had to braze fittings in a very long time, so Rex has had to reread up how to relearn how to braze. Righto guys, so this is what we're working with. So originally we had thought or talked to the owner about relocating the battery, but Rex has sort of decided that it's probably going to be better off leaving the battery where it is and building a reservoir over here on this side, where we've got all this room where we don't have an intake because we run an OTR. So Rex has started making a net to build a reservoir to have all our cooling liquid in there. You can see where the interchiller mounts down the front here, which is awesome. We had a few issues trying to source a new compressor and a few other bits and bobs, but we managed to get some and they're on the way. So it's going to drag out a bit longer than we wanted to, this job. It's going to a bit more work, and we need a few more things than we originally anticipated, but looking forward to having the system set up and finished. I think it's going to be really, really cool. So we've got Bo on the hunt for some bolts. Yeehaw! Spacer plates on. Bo got some bolts yesterday eve, and the blower and manifold are back together with our fresh bolty boys in there ready to go. So as you can see, thermal blanket installed to the manifold as well, so it's ready to go back on the engine now with our upgraded pulleys at the back here and upgraded belt.
Pulleys are set for party mode.
Party mode.
See, the big one is on the shaft and the little one's on the blower. So
you can see here on the AC line as well where Rex has brazed the T off, and that is where the AC system will then go across, up front into our interchiller, and we'll have this nice big reservoir once it's built as well. Also, we did confirm that this is a Magnuson 2300, it's not a 1900, so 2300 in party mode, all of these upgrades. What a time it's going to be. Not bad. Have you sort of done a bit of an estimate as to the capacity yet?
Somewhere, I think, between 12 and 15.
Woo! Nice.
That was just pretty rough. Just rough guessing, though.
Yep.
Yeah. It's pretty decent size, I mean.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty big.
I like it.
It's coming up well so far.
Oh, I like it. Hey?
Bloody hell.
Hey?
Nice.
This is the fun stuff, isn't it?
Yep.
In it.
In it. All right, coming along well. Still having a lot of issues with this welder. We did try and upgrade to a new welder right at the turn of financial year. There was like a big sale on for the welder. We wanted a new one, but unfortunately they were out of stock. So we sort of forgot about it until now because we haven't been welding, and now that we're welding, it's becoming very apparent that this thing's just not really sort of up to the task. There's something going on. Bo was watching the welder before and it's not very good. So we really need to upgrade the welder, but unfortunately Rex is just going to have to persist with it to get this done. As you can see, quite an intricate little reservoir. It's actually really quite impressive. So Rex is spewing that unfortunately his welds are not as good as they should be, as they could be, because of what the machine is doing, but unfortunately we just got to roll with it. But yeah, it's coming along well, looking great. All right, coming along. Rex has been persisting with the welder. There's been lots of yelling, but it's getting done. And
it's fucking disgusting, that fucking tank. I'm just so pissed off with it. I'm gonna, like, the whole thing's gonna be wrapped in insulation. I'm gonna have to fucking hide everything, but still, fucking shits me.
It is a pretty intricate part though. It looks good from afar.
Yeah, well, it's what pisses me off is if I had a fucking half decent welder, like, it would have looked really good.
So anyway, here's moving the intercooler pump, or the cooler system pump, over to this side, so it's all nice and hidden out of the way. You can see up there the reservoir box in there in the corner. So yeah, apart from Rex being obviously disappointed with the way the welds turned out, it fits really awesome. It's a really cool shape, and it's all going to work bloody awesome. And Rex was just saying it holds 13 litres, so 13 litres plus the interchiller. It's going to be, should keep things nice and chilly. Righto, boys and girls, slowly coming together, looking real nice. Our new condenser has finally arrived, and we've got our new compressor there as well. So fresh compressor, fresh condenser, we can start actually getting this front end back together. Rex has been waiting on a couple of fittings just to finish off the new fuel system, which have arrived as well, which means the floor of the tray and everything can go back together, and that can go sort of back together. Rightio guys, so as we're about to get ready to start sort of buttoning this all back up, Rex was saying that in his research of getting this kit and fitting it up and making it all happen, he couldn't really find that many detailed videos of any installs on this sort of thing on the internet. So we've figured before we button it up, we'll just go through the install in a little bit of detail for you guys. Now, I didn't install it, Rex did, so instead of me babbling on about it, I'm just going to let Rex talk about it, how it all happened, how it goes.
G'day. So, it's pretty straightforward actually. It seems pretty confusing all at the start, but the the instructions that Kirk sends are pretty comprehensive and not that hard to follow. Once you actually look at it, it's not all that hard, but as Max said, I hadn't really seen one in a Commodore, so we just sort of show you what we've ended up doing. So essentially, if you don't know what the interchiller does, it taps into the AC system and uses that and a heat exchanger to basically supercool the intercooler fluid. So we've put a brand new condenser because the old one was like getting pretty ratty, and with the stress that you're putting on the condenser, it's pretty important that it's in good working order because it's basically going to be running all the time now. Same thing with speaking to the owner. He was pretty happy. Like, it was actually his suggestion to just put a brand new compressor as well, which is obviously another not too bad of an idea. So luckily for the Commodore, so Forced Induction actually send you their own receiver dryer, which is just a straight up replacement, which is really nice. The reason they do that is it's got the sight glass in the top. I'm no refrigerant mechanic, but there is in the instructions with the recharge procedure, they suggest rather than doing it the way that you would normally do with just watching pressures and stuff, they reckon that it's a more reliable method to watch this sight glass to check your filling. So yeah, basically, the hardest part of the whole install is that you do have to do a bit of cutting and brazing for fittings. So this was the scary one for me because it's on the actual condenser itself. But brazing, if you haven't done it before, is actually super easy. Just get a map torch and the right sort of brazing sticks, and it's pretty hard to stuff it up, really. So according to the instructions, so the way the AC system works, it comes out of your compressor, through your condenser, and then the outlet. And this is one of the very important things is you need to tee it off, but the straight section has to go to the cabin AC, and the tee off part goes to the receiver dryer. And then the receiver dryer runs to the interchiller, so the cabin AC doesn't run through the receiver dryer. I'm not 100% sure why, but talking to Kirk at FY Interchillers, he said that's very important, and that is definitely the way to do it, so that's exactly how we have done it. From there, your receiver dryer just goes into, that's a TX valve, so thermal expansion valve, through the interchiller and then the outlet. This is another really important part as well. This is a capillary tube, which essentially runs to your TX valve and regulates the amount of fluid. So same thing in the instructions, it's really important that that's mounted at either 11 or 1, and that clamps nice and tight. And we are going to, there's a roll of tape there, we are going to insulate all of this because that capillary tube needs to be insulated and sense just the outlet temperature of the AC fluid. And then it runs through the suction line, and it's another brazed fitting on the suction side and back into your compressor. Then the only other change is out of that T-piece that runs to the cabin AC is this solenoid, which is a shut-off solenoid that basically stops the refrigerant from going through the in-cabin AC. So there's a few things, basically that controls your AC in the cabin now. As far as the car's concerned, the AC is just running all the time, constantly. And we'll also be setting up in the tune file, the thermo fans now will also run flat out all the time. The reason for that is that the AC compressor is running all the time. It's always putting fluid through the condenser. You need airflow through the condenser to cool it. That's like end of story. So yeah, I built a custom reservoir that goes here. I'm not going to show that to you until I completely insulate it, because I'm absolutely furious at the I'm disgusted by the welds on it. Because
I think I've already sort of talked about the welds and the issues we're having with our welds of trying to do alley, and I think I've already showed it.
Yeah, but it will do the job. So
it's sealed, it doesn't leak.
It's sealed, it doesn't leak. It holds 13 litres. Same thing, important to really insulate that and make sure, because essentially this fluid, it's possible for it to get into negative temperatures and stuff. So it's constantly cooling. You want to keep that reservoir cool as possible. Same reason that this suction line is insulated as well, to try and stop any heat from that. Important thing to note too, like where I've mounted this unit, because it's not like a heat exchanger, it doesn't need any airflow. Ideally we could probably put it somewhere else, but it's just too hard with the plumbing. So I've mounted it right behind the crash bar. As you can see, there's not much more I can do with the plumbing, but the idea is to try and minimize the obstruction to the condenser as much as you possibly can.
Yep. So put it behind something that's already limiting.
So I have seen people, seen pictures of the examples that FI set of some people that have they've actually cut into the crash bar and stuff like that, but it's a safety feature. I'm not cutting any of that nonsense up.
Yep.
So basically the plumbing blocks it a little bit. It's going to get a bit tight once I start running my lines, but I mean, there's only so much you can do.
Should probably add that this is a really tidy and a really low K's car, so.
Yeah, I don't want to go cutting stuff up, so. No. So yeah, insulate the suction line because it's cold. Don't insulate the liquid lines because they're hot. All you're doing is keeping heat in. So, I think that's the sort of main things to note, really. Other than that, it was pretty straightforward. I'm keen to see how it goes. The only thing is intercooler pump flow. I'm just going to reuse the existing Bosch intercooler pump that was with the system. We'll just have to see how it goes. Basically, Forced Inductions' opinion is that basically the more flow you can get, the better. So they recommend it's a Pierberg pump, but it's massive.
Yeah, right.
It flows a whole shitload at high pressures, but it's pretty expensive. So we'll just see how this one goes. But yeah, basically that's it. So this is essentially just a universal kit. But yeah, it works really well. So I'm pretty keen eventually, like I said, to put it in the shop ute. Yeah. Because it'd be perfect for it, because I can do all of this under the tray. Yeah, down the back. And then I just have to plumb up, basically just come up to the condenser. But this unit, the reservoir, everything will all be down the back. So pretty cool. Perfect for it. Yep. Forced induction interchillers, they recommend 5 to 10 litres for this application, basically street and drag racing. Our reservoir is 13, which is perfect. Like the more the better. Yep. If you're doing half-mile racing or mile racing and stuff like that, where you're going to spend long periods at high load, high temp, you need enough coolant in the reservoir that it will stay cold for the pass, because most AC systems will have either an RPM or a TPS cutoff for the AC system. Essentially, the compressor's not actually running 100% of the time. So if you're going to spend a while at flat stick, you need to have enough cold fluid to keep it cool while you're on it, and then once you back off and you're idling or you're slowing down, it kicks back in and recovers. Exactly. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So for a first time install,
all has gone well.
Yeah, not too bad. I just need to start plugging things back together. The last thing to do is to plumb that solenoid to a switch inside. They actually send you a switch, and that is essentially your AC control. Now that switch basically, so if you want your AC inside on, you flick the switch off, I think it is, whichever way it goes, which opens this solenoid and lets the AC work as per normal. And then you flick that switch off, but you don't actually control the AC on and off with the dash anymore, because you need that compressor running all the time.
Fair enough. So yeah, with this Interchiller setup, a big old reservoir, the new thermal blanket and the spacers, and our pulley upgrade, get some more boost in this thing, plus all of this extra density from this cold air, this thing should be singing, humming.
I'm very keen.
Keen as a bean. All right, well, we'll get this buttoned up and we'll get it on the dyno and we'll let her rip, tater chip. All right, guys, all coming along. Our reservoir all insulated and beautiful. All our lines are all insulated. Rex has insulated everything. So should all keep it really, really nice and cool. So we just filled it up full of antifreeze. Rex has just got to obviously jack it up and bleed the system properly, make sure there's no air and everything in it. And it's getting gassed up tomorrow. So once Rex has sorted out what he's got to sort out and make sure it works, I'll get him to run through how we set up the wiring and the switches and stuff in the car as well. But yeah, it should be a freaking wicked setup. So, all bled up, ready for gas and go. Rex was saying that the system complete with our reservoir and then obviously the lines and brick and everything else ends up around 16 litres, which is, according to forced induction that makes the Interchiller kit, they recommend 20 litres if you're doing mile racing. So, you know, that's a lot of reservoir and a lot of coolant. So yeah, like Rex is saying, if it doesn't work as well as we hope, it's not going to be for a lack of capacity. So that's the switch there next to the steering wheel, nice and simple, easy. It's got a little LED on it.
So the way it works now is that forever now, you have to have the AC on and the blower fan running so that the AC is actually on.
Yep.
And then basically to control the AC on or off is that.
Yeah, so that's for the solenoid that actually allows it.
Yeah, so it blocks off the liquid line to the in-cabin filter now. So that green light off is AC off, Interchiller.
Still working.
Interchiller only.
Yep.
And then if you want cabin AC, you just flick that to on. It opens that solenoid and actually allows the in-cabin AC system to work.
Very cool.
That's how you have to have it now. So the way that the AC system works, for anyone who's concerned about, oh well, it's always going to be cold, is the point is that it blocks off the AC. So at the moment, even though the car thinks the AC is on, you're only going to get essentially ambient air, and you can use your heater as per normal. It's just that with it blocked off, the car will still engage the AC compressor because the evaporator core is still hot. It's not down to cold because there's obviously no refrigerant getting to it. So that's why pretty much just why you have to do it that way. So on top of that too, we'll have to change it in the tune file, is that basically the AC runs all the time along with both fans always running to pull air through the condenser.
So guys, it's finally dyno day for the big rig. We've got our setup all sorted. It has been a bit of a task trying to get it gassed up so that it's working properly. We had a lot of issues working with our guy that does all our AC gassing, trying to get this to work properly with the gas and everything else. Eventually got it sorted this morning, which is awesome. And yeah, this thing on the dyno, it's angry as, it's wild, it's spicy. Rex just running it up in steady state. Reckons he saw about 18 PSI, which is possibly going to be a problem because it's only a 2-bar map sensor. So we're either going to have to try and sort out a 3-bar map sensor or potentially change the pulleys and the blower back over to the old setup. Alright guys, so unfortunately the GoPro I was using to film this video did GoPro things, and I lost a lot of audio for a lot of the clips where I was explaining what we actually went through. However, what happened was we were having a lot of fuel pressure dramas or fuel supply issues, even how we had set the fuel system up. Not only, well, that was a result of us simply just turning the blower too hard and having the blower way out of its efficiency. So even though we implemented all possible things to keep the IATs down, which the IATs did stay reasonably low, even though we were turning the blower that hard, it was causing issues elsewhere in the setup. Mainly, it was boiling the fuel in the fuel rails because the blower itself was just too hot. So not only that, but with the amount of boost that we were making with that pulley setup, we were exceeding the capacity of the 2-bar map sensor that was already fitted to the car, which for anyone at home listening, for flex fuel sort of situations in future and that sort of thing, you're only able to do 2-bar for a Gen 3 ECU. So going to a 3-bar, although would have been an immediate fix, it would have eventually probably been a problem if this car ever went flex fuel, which we had been talking about. So between exceeding the map sensor and knowing that we were just way out of efficiency on the blower, even though IATs were keeping cool, we decided to swap the pulley setup back around to go back to the boost that it was when it arrived, which ended up being less boost because of the lower IATs, but that, and we actually changed the fuel system to be a full return system. This just allowed more fuel to flow through the rails and just overall keep the fuel in the rails cooler, whereas the deadhead setup that we were originally using was just obviously having that fuel in the rails with the blower heat was just allowing it to boil the fuel. So once we sorted these two things out, the whole system was a lot happier. We weren't boiling the fuel, we had constant fuel pressure, and having the blower operate within that efficiency, even with the lower IATs, it still made pretty much the same power as with the higher boost, but the whole setup was much happier for it. The interchiller was working more efficiently without having to overcool such high intake temps from turning the blower too hard pre-chiller. So yeah, the whole system was just a lot happier when we went back to that sort of boost and ended up making the power we wanted to make. So that's a summary. Keep this short and sweet. Righto, boys and girls, so here we are. We've removed the blower, switched the pulleys over, got the ratio back down, and essentially got this back to the ratio that it was when it got here, but obviously with our interchiller system and everything working. And as we thought, much happier system altogether. So having the blower speed a little bit slower, allowing the interchiller to do its job a bit better, not exceeding the efficiency of the blower. It is making the exact same power. 624, I think was even higher than, I think it might have been higher than anything we made before. So yeah. Still, that's a less boost. So obviously we're losing a lot of the mid-range, a lot of the big hit in the mid-range because of the less boost, but the whole system is just so much happier the way it is. And lo and behold, since swapping them back over and getting it to this point, no more fuel system issues. Falling over the freaking dyno. So we've eliminated the fuel system issues. So it appears that that's what was going on, was that just the blower being that hot, heating the rails that much, was just heating the fuel in the circuit that much that it was just, yeah, fuel was not happy, and that's what the problem was. So happy to finally have this thing sorted, and happy that, at the end it was what we thought. It took us freaking forever to get to this point, but hey, the more you know. No more for next time, but yeah, we were just exceeding the efficiency of this blower too much, heating everything up too much, and the fuel system was unhappy for it. So there you go, same power, much happier system completely, well within its efficiency. And from here, now, if you wanted a little bit more boost, we can always just go down on the drive pulley, gain a little bit more that way if we wanted to, slightly, but at the end of the day, I think the system's pretty happy the way it is now, and 620 and this thing being a manual is, yeah, gonna be no slouch. It's gonna be an animal. So anyway, that's it. Finally done. Happy that it all, oh, the other thing is, with those pulleys changed around at this blower speed with what we're doing now, Rex was saying IATs didn't really get over like 25 degrees. So like IATs are way lower. There's way more density in the air that is being moved. It's just all round so much happier. The interchiller is you know, able to do its job so much better. And yeah, we're very happy with the outcome of this. So that's about as hard as obviously we can turn a little 2300. But yeah, super happy with that. So thanks for watching as always, guys. Yeah, glad this is finally sorted. We learned a bit.
I was just going to say, for comparison, the before running the same amount of boost in the before runs was starting around 45 degrees at intake air temp and finishing pretty much just in the low 60s. And now it'll start in almost single digits, about 11, 12 degrees, and yeah, doing like one run or a whole bunch of steady state and then doing another run straight up, I think it just touched 30.
Yeah, so
you've
30 degree,
good 30, solid 30 degrees, which is huge.
What was the boost difference between before and after with the Interchiller and the sort of the same ratio?
I haven't run them over yet.
Yeah,
but
we'll have to check that actually. We'll bring it up. All right, guys. So interestingly enough, we're actually at less boost than we were on the pre-runs. And Rex was just sort of explaining to me, because it's a positive displacement blower, it actually moves a certain volume of air. And because the cooler brick is after it moves that air, it's moving the same volume of air, and then it's being cooled into higher density, so it's actually showing up as less boost than it was before. Whereas on a turbo system or something where you're taking a reference from, you know, a manifold or something after the air's been cooled, that would change dramatically, obviously, if you're getting more density in that air at that point. But yeah, so interestingly enough, it's showing up as actually less boost because of the way the blower works, but obviously way higher density and a lot more power for that. So there you go, the more you know. Happy days. Anyway, just glad to have this thing finally sorted. Happy days. It's finally sorted, and 624 horsepower at the wheels. How good. So thanks for watching as always, guys. Hope to see you on the next one. Smash like, smash subscribe, hit the little bell so you don't miss anything, and we'll catch you later. Peace out, see you, bye.